Welcome to Mic'd and Medicated. We are really excited today to welcome Danielle Frank to our podcast. She just wrote a hilarious and informative book called A Wine Lover's Guide to Parenting. Caroline's holding it up here. So we'll put it in the show notes so everyone can go out and buy it. And maybe you could just tell everyone a little bit about your journey to becoming an author.
Sure. Well, first off, thank you both for having me. This is super fun. You guys have a great podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm born and bred New Yorker. Was here until I was about 28. I was working in the entertainment industry at Miramax Films. In my 20s, wild, just living in a studio apartment, but traveling off to the Cannes Film Festival, Berlin Film Festival, flying all over. It was a dream. And I, like every New Yorker, had the parental pressure of you're turning 30, or you guys getting married, having kids, like everything that's expected from
I don't know if it's New York, but it's the maybe the Jewish parents.
Yes, Jewish parents for sure. And I used to travel all the time for work to LA, and I just loved it out there. And so I broke up with my boyfriend at 28 and said, I'm moving to LA. So I moved to LA and decided to get out of the entertainment industry. I swapped red carpets for red wine.
Ooh, I love that.
And I fell into this job I thought was going to be temporary. I was like, oh, it's great. Work from home. This sounds like fun for a little bit. And here I am 21 years later, even though I'm only 21. It's very
I was going to say, how could you been working 21 when you just turned 23?
I know.
You're just allowed to drink your wine that you're talking about.
So I've been in this industry, in the wine and spirits industry, for over 22, 23 years. And it's super fun. And along the way, I wrote this fun, fabulous book, A Wine Lover's Guide to Parenting. I actually wrote it 13 years ago. I was watching my niece and nephew when they were little. Now they're in college, which is just wild. And although they're great kids, as you guys know, kids tend to have wine moments.
Oh, yeah. That's why I love tequila. Sorry. I do like wine, but sometimes I need a little stronger. I need more proof.
So I was watching them and they were whining. And I said, Aunt Danielle drinks wine. She doesn't listen to wine. And it was just like an aha moment that a light bulb went off in my head. Obviously, I love wine. I'm a wine drinker. And working in the industry, I started to think about all the parallels and the fun ways to show raising your kids well to wine terminology.
It reminds me of that book, Go the Fuck to Sleep, which I have to say, like as a parent, when you're in that moment, and there are many of them where you just feel incredibly frustrated, there is nothing to do but either throw yourself out a window or just laugh.
Right. I also have that book, Pet the Fucking Puppy, which is for grownups. And I've definitely thought about reading that actual words, which is like, get in your fucking bed.
Right.
Snuggle by your fucking self. That's literally the book. And it looks like a touchy feel book. So I'm all about the humor. Because I think actually our last episode was all about how humor and comedy is armor. But I also think it's just survival in every way. And I think as a parent or an aunt or whatever job you're doing and you're a role model and involved with children, you need humor and alcohol, actually.
Well, that's
perfect.
That's exactly what prompted this book. Go the Fuck to Sleep had just recently come out, and it sort of paved the way for this new genre of an adult children's book. And I thought, and I've always been good at rhyming, so mine rhymes.
It sounds X-rated, adult children's book.
I mean, it's extra. That's a little creepy, Eva. I don't know. The word children, then you got all hot and bothered. Okay.
But it sounded creepy. That's why I remarked on
got it. Okay.
But that's what paved the way. I was like, this is this sort of new genre. And I love the idea of making wine knowledge fun and accessible and easy. Not daunting. I go out to dinner with friends and they look at the wine list and they're like, you take a look. It's, wine should be fun. It should be approachable, and learning about wine should be approachable.
Learning about wine is actually very hard. I went to Cornell and it was the most often failed class. Everybody wanted to take the wine class. Yeah. It's like a very well-known class at Cornell in the hotel school. And it's so much harder than people think and often failed.
It doesn't totally surprise me because I feel like people who are wine connoisseurs and collect wine and have knowledgeable requests at restaurants, like it's a badge of honor. So I always assumed it was something you have to kind of dive into.
It's very sciencey, actually.
Yeah, I mean, when you get into the science and the oenology and all those details, it's definitely hard. But for the everyday person that just wants to understand styles and what they like.
Or just
You
drink
know,
and
yes.
relax.
Yeah, I'm just
and
like,
forget
whatever's
their
going to get me
worries.
fucked up. No, I'm just kidding.
It should be approachable. So every time I use wine terminology in the book, it gives the definition. And it's not, going into heavy belabored terminology, but common things, and just gives you a little bit of knowledge, and also includes a recipe for mulled wine in there. And at the end gives you a basic understanding of how wine is made.
But I think it's fascinating because you're single, you don't have any children, and you wrote this book about parenting. And I love how you kind of express through your book that being an aunt to so many nieces, nephews, friends, children, you feel like the experience, or you have your own experience of raising kids, even though it's not a parent's experience. Can you talk a little bit about like, was that a conscious decision? Did you always kind of say like, I don't want children when I grow up? Was that something that's just like your life unfolded that way? Because today it's actually quite common and applauded in media that a lot of women are choosing, I don't need a husband. But like for me, it was the dream. It was like, I wanted a husband, a white picket fence, 3 children. So I would just be curious about your journey and how you view that sort of decision and experience you've had.
Yeah, that's I could take you on a whole journey. I did want kids very badly. I was engaged to be married, and my ex has 2 kids from a previous marriage. And in the 6+ years we were together, he sort of went back and forth about whether he'd have more kids. He knew I wanted kids. When we got engaged, he said, okay, let's do it. We can have a kid. So we got engaged, and he wanted a very long engagement, which should have been
a red flag.
Yeah, there were a lot of red flags in that relationship. That just became, an additional red flag. And I could just see he just ultimately didn't want more kids. This guy he was very much interested in, I had kids already. I just want to chase the party. Always had to stay out till the bar closed, and just wanted a free, independent lifestyle, shall we say. Yeah. So once we got engaged, I started just really looking internally and realizing this is never going to be a marriage that's going to last.
How old were you at that time? If you don't mind me
I
asking?
was 38.
Okay.
I love how you're asking, if you don't mind me asking how old, and I didn't say, if you don't mind me asking, like, did you want children?
Oh, yeah. I don't know why women always do that.
We talk all the time on this podcast about when our husbands act free and independent, that is really like contradictory to a partnership. So I think you made a really smart decision, because he doesn't sound like somebody who wanted to be in a
By the way,
partnership.
you're talking about our husbands who just like don't Amazon order shit and like act like we're ghosts. They're not like partying and having fun.
No, that's my point. No, that's my point. But
we're just invisible.
No, that's my point, is like, when you enter into a partnership, you kind of give up some of that independence. So if he's signaling to you, I had kids, I want to be really independent, like that doesn't sound like somebody who's ready to walk down the aisle and make a commitment of marriage.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, he said, all right, we can do it. We can have a kid. But yeah, it just became obvious. It was sort of like he was saying that just to say it, and ultimately he didn't want it. And ultimately I wanted it to be with somebody that wanted to have a kid with me, that is excited to have a kid with me. And, I wanted to have a kid. I don't need to stay out till the bar closes at 2 a.m. Like, I did plenty of that running around the city in my 20s here. There's a time and place, and there's a balance. And I just don't think he was ready to give up his lifestyle. He had his kids before, and he didn't want to go back into that stage. So I broke up with him, and I did think, I froze my eggs, and I did think, all right, I'll just do it on my own. Like, screw it. But as time went on, that path sadly didn't happen for me. I travel a lot for work. I just realized it's hard. It's very hard. It's hard for people to have kids that are in a partnered relationship. I can't, it's even harder if you're a single woman, you're traveling for work. So ultimately that path didn't happen for me, but the nurturing doesn't go away just because you don't have kids. As you said, I'm very engaged in my niece and nephew's lives. And so many of my friends' kids call me they call me Aunt Dee Dee, because that's what my niece called me when she was little, because she couldn't say Danielle. So I'm Aunt Dee Dee to lots of kids. And that's how this book came about. One, with the aha moment when I said Aunt Dee Dee drinks wine, she doesn't listen to wine, but also because you don't need to be a parent to know good behavior in kids. You don't need to
I know,
be...
that's why I'm shocked that you wrote a parent's guide. I feel like it could just be like a grown-up's guide to raising just humans who are not assholes in some way.
I'm
Because
gonna
many kids
do
are
version 2 and change the label to change the title to
I mean, I guess it's just to be parent, aunt,
yeah.
anybody.
Yeah, I mean, the book really is for aunts, uncles, parents, wine lovers, anybody that loves a good humor book.
Grandparents.
But yeah, you don't need to be a parent to know good behavior in human beings. And this became my love letter, my homage to all the great parents that I see around me, all my friends, watching them raise these great kids and doing it so well and adding a little humor into their lives. And I always say sometimes, if you're not in the trenches and on the battlefield as an outsider, it's a little easier to see that the grape juice you're drinking can turn to a lovely Cabernet.
My aunt, who actually is very influential in my life, she used to say she had kids late, even though she got married early, because coming to see my brother and I was the best birth control ever. She was like, I can't have kids. Like, she literally waited 8 or so years because she just couldn't. Granted, my brother had some behavioral issues, but I will say my aunt is very important to me in my life. And I think, because you don't have the complications that you have with your own mother or your grandmother. It's a different relationship. Sometimes you can actually be more similar to them than you are your own mother. And I think as an aunt, I don't know, I think she didn't have the same expectations of me in a way that felt pressure. It's like she saw me for who I am and could communicate and nurture me. So I think, just because you're not a parent doesn't mean that you don't have a huge role in shaping a human.
Oh, absolutely. To that point, my niece, my sister and I are very different. No one's better than the other, but my niece, like, I'm very independent. I'm well-traveled. I travel everywhere. Travel just wasn't something always on my sister's radar. My niece is at a senior at University of Wisconsin, where I went. She traveled abroad to Italy last semester, which is where I went. She wants to travel the world, see the world. So she's, it's not about forming yourself after one or the other. It's just seeing different lenses of people and what you can become.
She also just might genetically be a little bit more similar to you.
Yeah, we do look alike. She's a blonde like me.
So you never know.
Well, I was just going to say, like, research has shown that you don't even need it to be a parent. You need an adult in your corner who you trust, who you can go to when times are hard, who is always cheering for you, wants to see you succeed.
You also have more patience, I think, when you're not the parent. Like,
of course.
I remember when my aunt had her kids and I was 18, and I would when my aunt would come over and I was little, she would sit on the floor with me and play. And you're not thinking about all the other shit that you have to do. Like, did I sign her up for ballet? Did I do this? And then when she had her kids, she was running around with her head cut off. She was not sitting on the floor being like, do you want to look at this train? And let's see. And I was. So it's just, you have a different patience level, and kids can feel that.
Of course, we get to come in and we get to then leave. So it's great.
Right.
We've got, we've got lots of patience. Then we could go home and take a bath.
Also, you know what I was thinking? Because just to go back to the book, because it has so many lessons. And I feel like you've had, which we can go into, a lot of dating experience and lessons. Would you ever do a dating version of this? Like lessons to your younger self or lessons to you now?
That's a great idea. The next iteration I am going to do is a whiskey lover's guide to dog breeds.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. We're all dog people. So that's going to be the next iteration. That's an interesting one about dating. I've got lots of dating stories.
I think it's fun. I think also there are a lot of women who are at an age, look, there's biological pressure, like even the freezing eggs or whatnot. I think women feel it if you want that life. And it's hard. It's hard to make that decision. But I think you could talk to a version of yourself and say, look, don't, this is a red flag, that don't do this, and compare it to tequila or some kind of fun drink.
Yeah.
But I think women would appreciate that, because I don't think a lot of women talk about the mistakes that they've made or what they would have done differently, because there's either they feel badly or guilt. I don't believe that, because I think everything happens for a reason and you're on the path you're supposed to. But I think people...
I 100% agree with that. I believe every experience is a chapter in the story of your life, and it's meant to happen. I never look back and regret anything. Even with my ex-fiance, I have zero regrets. Everything happens as it should. And as long as you're learning from it and propels you to the next stage of your life. And it did. I mean, with my fiance, besides him not wanting kids, the wanting a freer, more liberal lifestyle, there were a lot of I was very unhappy in the relationship. And of course, people on social media, they saw us traveling the world, and
You looked very probably hashtag blessed.
yeah. I don't think I ever used hashtag blessed, but definitely bragged about, like, I'll never forget this. I was already engaged. It was January. I broke it off in April of that year. January, we were in Buenos Aires at like this Michelin restaurant. And that's when he's like, oh, I spoke to Gabriella, my real estate agent, and I told her, it's time to look for a bigger place because we're going to expand and we're going to have a kid. And I remember I was just on cloud 9, and I did a post of the restaurant. I was like, luckiest girl in the world. Maybe I did say hashtag blessed.
Well, that's kind of hashtag blessed.
Right,
you know?
right. And I remember I was on cloud 9, and then we left the restaurant, and he's like, oh, let's just go out for one more drink. Let's go to this club. And then I was like, let's just go home. And he had to find a club. And then he wanted to invite people back over to our hotel room to party. And I will never forget that feeling. Like, here I was on cloud 9, and I was just so miserable. He was, I'll say it blankly, like, more liberal lifestyle. I mean, if he could have had us in the swinging lifestyle, he would have liked it. Not for me. If that works for some people,
Nobody
great.
asked me to be a swinger. I'm kind of offended now.
I've actually been asked to be a swinger. It's so funny we're talking about this. When I lived in LA,
you were asked to be a swinger?
Me and Doug, maybe they just wanted Doug, I don't know. But when we lived in LA, we had dear friends, and they were swingers. I guess I wasn't overtly asked, but we had dear friends, they were swingers, and they would talk about it. And one night we were all hanging out, and it definitely it was an invitation. We didn't take the invitation. I feel like I might have kissed her.
Oh my God.
But it was very like,
wait, this just got juicy. Wait, so she
very
wanted to be with you?
benign. It was just one of
Right.
those things where, because I had the knowledge they play that way, and because we were all hanging out, it seemed like one of those invitations in life where, had we kind of said, oh, we want to do this, it could have
Were you
occurred.
married
And
then?
actually, what's so interesting.
Were you married then, Eva?
No, we were just,
Okay.
we weren't even engaged. We were just dating. Oh, so I guess, I don't know, can you be a swinger if you're just dating?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But on a more serious note, I greatly admire you, because a couple of things you have said really struck me. One, I think I've been in those situations where you want something to be true so much that you hang on to, like, the comment, let's get a bigger house. And I don't know if he was manipulative and knew what that comment was going to do for you, but it wasn't like you were pretending. You genuinely took that and wanted so much for it to be true that in that moment when you posted it, it was like you were willing that to be the way it was. And then unfortunately reality, slapped you in the face when he wanted to go out and bring people back. But also when you talked about how hard it is to raise kids as a single woman, I think today there's maybe a lack of appreciation for like how hard all these things are to do alone. And you have kind of the wisdom to say that. And I think it's important for younger people listening, because I think there's sort of this, oh, I'm going to freeze my eggs. I don't need a husband. I'm going to do it all on my own. And at least from my perspective,
It's
it is
hard.
really hard.
You need somebody else.
It's really hard to raise children, and single moms out there, hats off to you.
Absolutely.
I agree.
But the fact that you can kind of say that and acknowledge
I
it.
just knew that wasn't feasible in my life. But yeah, so after that experience, I really just started, there was many more moments where I just realized how unhappy I was in the relationship.
Is that the first moment that you really realized, or
No,
you had seen a lot of
No,
red flags?
I'd seen a
throughout
lot
that?
of red flags.
So why'd you stay? Just gonna cut to the chase, because you were 38 when you got engaged. Like,
It wasn't like I was really unhappy. I mean, I love this guy and it was great. I think I wanted to believe that we were going to have that happy ending. And it wasn't until we got engaged October, and we only were engaged till April. So it was only then that I didn't move in with him until we got engaged. And it was only then when I moved in with him where I started to really feel unhappy. Like, I missed having my own space. I was happier in my own space. And that's when I really started to see, like, this isn't going to be a marriage that lasts. And so why embark on it? And so I broke it off, and I'll never forget that first night in my new apartment. And after that, I never cried another day. I went out with friends that night, and it was like 9:30, 10. And I was like, I'm tired. I'm going to go home. And I went home, and I laid in my bed, and I just smiled up at the ceiling. And I'm like, I was tired. I went home.
right, you didn't have to like go and
I didn't
try
have,
to swing.
Yeah, I didn't have anybody like say to me, oh, one more drink. Let's stay out to the bitter end.
It
Like, I
sounds
did what
awful.
I wanted to do. I did what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And I love
Right.
that feeling. And that decision propelled me forward for future relationships as well. I I'm luckily successful. I can take care of myself. I'm independent. So
It's not lucky, you work hard.
And knowing that in my future relationships, if something wasn't serving me right and I wasn't happy, I was empowered to walk away knowing that I don't need to be in something if it doesn't feel right and doesn't feel good for me.
But isn't there a fear of like going too far that way? Because Doug and I met and built our relationship so young that we weren't both individually formed adults. So we kind of meshed together. And I have friends who got married later in life, and it's much harder when you have a routine and habits and your own space because you've created a life for yourself. So do you ever feel like, well, I guess it depends how much you want to be in a relationship, but it is about compromise, and it's hard after you've been so established and kind of supporting yourself. So do you struggle with that, or is that a tension?
100%. Well, not that I struggle with it. 100%. I realize like the more independent I get, like I like my space. I'd be very happy if I met somebody and he had the house next to me.
Right.
That would be a dream. No, I mean, I'm very much in my routine. I'm very comfortable at home. I have a lot of friends. I travel a lot for work and pleasure. So it definitely, and dating is hard regardless, whether you're active. Like I'm not really active on apps. I just want Prince Charming to knock on my door apparently, but no, it's, it does get harder because I'm set in my ways. Obviously, I'm willing to compromise, but I love being in love, and I do think I would love a partner. I do think that will happen, but I think when it does happen, it will last because like you said, you and Doug mesh together. I think that's why couples later on do work out very well too, because I didn't know what I wanted in my 20s, and the shit I put up with back then, not cute anymore. Like I would never put up with that.
Right.
Why do you think you put up with it back then?
Because you don't know what you want, right? Like you don't know who you are. And that's why I think a relationship, when I meet somebody later, it does have the propensity to work because we both know who we are.
Right.
We both know who we are as individuals, and it'll be easier to see if we're compatible together.
But do you think, you talked about leaving New York because of all the pressure and expectation of getting married and having kids, and then you were in this long-term relationship 6 years and got engaged. Do you think you were kind of unwilling to let the idea of getting married and have kids go and kind of in love with that idea? Or do you think you were in love with him despite all the red flags?
When I moved out there, I was still a publicist. I just always wanted to move to LA. So for me, it was just about, I'm not ready to settle down and start that phase of my life yet. I want to accomplish other things that I want to do on my life's bucket list, like moving to LA. So getting married and having kids was always a part of that, whether it was New York or LA.
So not to do a hard pivot, but you have had such an illustrious
you were a big
journey.
pivoter. You went from swinging to then going back to the children's book to you're all over the place. I like
embrace the pivot.
I
That's what I've done with
but
life.
No, I feel like we can't not talk about the fact that you were a celebrity publicist.
It was great. Like I said, like in my 20s, living here in a studio, but if the talent stayed at the Georges V in Paris, that's where we stayed. If they flew private, we were on the private plane. Like
I was wiping asses, cleaning diapers in my 20s. I didn't get to. Yeah, actually, no, I had fun.
But you were in fashion, which sounds really different. It sounds like being in the entertainment industry, even though you weren't the star, you got to travel in style. It sounds like you had a different
fashion
experience.
they make a lot less money and they're much cheaper.
Oh, we made no money, and like
but I don't think you get the glamour in fashion as much anymore. But entertainment, you get some good.
Yeah, I had wanted
perks.
to move to LA, and I had been at Miramax for 6 years, and I really liked working for a studio, not representing talent. I traveled with every big name you can think of.
All right, so who was the biggest asshole?
Well, I'll tell you.
Start with the best.
Oh, start with the nicest.
Well, Samuel L. Jackson was.
Oh, I love him.
Absolutely my favorite. Like adore. He was great. Matt Damon was great. Jude Law.
Is Jude Law as short as everyone says?
He's medium. He's not tall. He's not short.
There a lot of them are small.
He just did. I just watched him in a TV series.
Great. Yeah. Rabbit.
Yes.
Not Task Rabbit. Task Rabbit is when you
Black Rabbit.
Yeah.
Black Rabbit. Yes. That was great.
That was great.
And if you
have
haven't,
a lot of time to watch movies and TV.
And well, it's honestly Doug and my love language. I feel like when the kids go to bed, that is the way we connect. Like when we don't have a show we're watching, we're ships passing in the night and don't talk to each other. But when we have a TV show we're watching, that's
my kids somehow end up in my bed, so we watch a lot of Full House.
Oh, yeah, I don't allow TV in my bedroom, so we have to be out in the living room with everyone.
I keep
Oh.
saying TaskRabbit because there was also that other show Task on HBO, which was excellent.
Oh, I don't watch
Oh,
that
I need to
show.
watch that.
It's really
But you
good.
should watch Drops of God
Yes.
because it's on Apple.
Yeah,
and
somebody
it
else
is
recommended
about
it.
Wait.
wine.
Oh, you know, what's that great wine movie with something? Oh,
Sideways.
yes, I love that movie.
That
Yeah.
is fun.
All right, so who was not as nice, or you can't tell us?
All the men were nice. You notice she didn't name any women.
There were some great women. Kate Blanchett was excellent. Very sweet. Meryl
Great
Streep.
actress.
Yeah. Meryl Streep was very sweet. There was this guy, Robert Forster. He's no longer alive. He actually we were at the Berlin Film Festival for Jackie Brown with Samuel Jackson. And he brought us all gifts, keychains. It was just such a nice gesture.
Aw.
That's sweet.
Yeah. It's like when I give Starbucks gift cards to stewardesses every time I'm and stewards when I go on an airplane, because it's that little gesture. That
Wow, that's
thinks
really
Wow.
nice.
because I saw it on the gram once, a steward
You
is
keep
talking
saying
about
the gram.
Instagram.
I don't know what that is.
It's
Instagram.
Instagram. Or you're a moron. See, I told you she's a tech turd.
I thought that might be what it is.
I'm
I've just
cringing.
never heard it
It's
called
like-
the gram.
It's
Instagram.
obvious. What do you think?
Okay,
It's
I
the
guess
graham
I
crackers?
knew, but I just wanted
You're right.
to
It's the
confirm.
graham cracker
Yes.
social media.
It's,
I
yeah,
guess
I don't know
I-
if I'm old in saying that or if
Yeah, I
that's-
think that I say IG. Is that not what people say?
IG. No one says IG.
So you call it the gram?
No, I say Instagram. Insta.
Insta. Yeah, Insta.
Instagram.
Anyway, I saw
The
it on-
gram.
The
I
gram
saw it
sound- no one says
Sounds like
IG.
the Grammys. I don't know.
I saw it
IG?
on Instagram. A stewardess once saying that it's little things you can do, bring them little candy or Starbucks gift cards. So ever since then, because I travel all the time, I always travel with.
Okay, I
Starbucks
like
gift
that
cards.
idea, but I will say sometimes travel stewardesses don't do their fucking job anymore.
I was about to say Caroline prefers to shit
So-
on them in videos on the gram.
Well, I don't like them when they, if you happen to be in business class and they're just fucking talking very loudly. It's
Well-
shut the fuck up. I'm paying for this experience. My kids aren't on the plane. I can actually enjoy silence. And I hear,
If they're not nice, you don't have to give
they
them a
were
card.
nice.
Although I
They were just
usually
annoying.
often when they're handing me the menu or something at the beginning, I give it to them as thank you for taking care of me on this flight. We're about to
Always do it in the
embark on-
beginning.
In the beginning, and then they are sweet as pie to you all flight.
It's true. Always tip in the beginning. I learned my dad's partner who passed away, business partner. That sounds like he had a husband. And he always taught my dad, he was like, never tip at the end of a trip. You always tip in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because then
Makes
you get
so
great
much sense,
service.
but then it's you're not actually doing something for them. You're doing it.
who fucking
Or you're not
cares?
bidding on the service that you
You're
got.
doing
because
You're doing it for
it's-
yourself.
Self-enlightened interest. You're making sure ahead of time they're going to take care of you versus saying, thanks so much for doing your job. Well, I want to give you something.
Yeah, you're right, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's better having a good trip. But I think it's smart. You
Yeah.
know, maybe I could give them some kind of Starbucks card and a just mouth tape. Just stop talking when we're watching the movie.
Maybe you could give the Starbucks card with a note that says, I appreciate you being quiet on this flight.
Or I have really sensitive eardrums. But what else was I? Oh, so then, sorry, we're going to pivot again and go
Yeah.
back. I want to go back to relationships because I really feel like there are a lot of women struggling there's so much pressure. There's pressure even for me as someone who wasn't career focused and had kids and sort of that still wasn't enough. I feel like as a woman, you're never really doing anything enough. It's if you're a stay-at-home mom, that's not hard enough. If you have a career, it just, you can't win. So, but I do think there are a lot of women struggling with this to figure out, okay, I do really want to accomplish things in my work, but I also want to meet somebody who I want to spend my life with. How do you balance that? And I think, what are other lessons that you've learned? Because it is really hard to do things well, to have a good quality relationship and have a huge career. It's very hard.
Yeah, I wish I had all the answers on how I got to this place. I think for me, one, it's just sort of innate in me that with that relationship and subsequent relationships, the biggest lesson I learned was I'd rather be alone than in the wrong relationship and be unhappy. And
That's good advice for everybody.
and I think, it just helps that I feel like I am intuitive and just had a really deep understanding of who I am as an individual. So obviously that helps, to know that I'm really comfortable with being by myself.
That makes you more attractive.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I love going out. I say I'm like an oxymoron. I love a 9-course Michelin star meal and I could go eat a hot dog at the vendor down the street, or
I love that.
I love going out, but I love staying in with my dog and watching a movie at the same time. I I love doing it all, and I'm very comfortable in both spaces. So I feel very fortunate that I got to that place early on. But I think it's also from a lot of reflection inward to see that, to learn that lesson, that I'd rather be alone and happy. And I am happy. And I have some friends, a lot of friends of mine, my age, late 40s, early 50s, who different stages of their life, they're starting to, some got to it a lot earlier, but they're just coming to that realization now that they're good with who they are. They're good on their own. And like you said, I think when you are comfortable with who you are, then it does open you up to be in a more successful relationship.
Because I think you have then higher standards, you know, and I think something I did not know professionally, like what I wanted to do, or where I was kind of lost in that sense. I knew I wanted to, like, Eva.
She was lost until she met me.
I was lost until I found you. I was trying to think of a good song, but I just couldn't find one. And but I knew I wanted to be a mom and have kids. What was I saying when you just interrupted me, Eva? No, it was fine. It was probably not even a good point. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. But I was an old soul. So like, I'm telling you, I'm like fun now. And like, I'm like chill. Well, chill-ish. But I really was tough. Like I had very high standards for my partner and for what I wanted. And I dated my husband 1 year. I was 25 when I did this to him. And I was like, you have one more year to propose. And I think a lot of women don't do that. And I said to him, I remember this. I said, look, I know this is weird to you, but it's my life also. And I want to do this. And I think he probably should have run, but he didn't. And he was probably horrified because I think men are kind of stupid. I think if you don't give them limits or set them straight, I think they don't do it. So I think a lot of women also have to realize that you have to, but you have to love yourself enough to know that they might walk away.
Yeah, you have to love yourself and you have to know who you are and what you want. And, you know, and that's the biggest thing. Like, you know what you want, set your own personal goals. You're not always going to get everything you want, particularly like in a career. Like I feel very fortunate that I fell into jobs that I love.
Right.
But you at least have to have, you know, a roadmap of where you want to see your life go. And you have to be okay with, you have to be okay with the pivots along the way and know just how to navigate them, because ultimately there will be some pivots, but it sounds like it's working out great for you.
I mean,
I have Eva,
but we've been talking about internal factors that we can control. And I look at you and you are successful and hot and
amazing hair.
Do you want to date me?
And it sounds like you're comfortable and so like you're flexible. You can, you know, go to the ball game and go.
You sound like a guy's dream, honestly.
Oh, and I love football, by the way.
Oh my God.
So, I have 5 fantasy football teams. That's a little too aggressive.
And by the way, that is a huge plus.
I actually lied.
So anybody listening, I'm single.
But she's single, ready to mingle. She knows about wine.
But I guess like, if I could get my point out, I guess.
How do you like? Do you like? How's the taste of your own medicine, Eva? It's fucking bitter, isn't it?
But then there's the external factors, and I'm curious if you feel this is an accurate characterization of sort of dating, that like the older you get, the more women there are and the fewer men there are, because as men get older, if they
age like fine wine,
they go after younger women. And so for older women, plus then you layer on older successful women want to be with somebody, like they still have those ingrained societal norms of I want to be with somebody as smart and successful as me as kind of baseline. So it's harder because there are, you know, the top of the male kind of success and attractiveness, and then like that status for men, like they have their pick of everyone, whereas for women at that higher level you have such a small number of male counterparts.
I think men actually are I think older women can be sexier because they're confident.
Well,
I agree.
The thing.
I'm just curious
off the apps, and that's exactly one. That's why I don't do the app. I don't do the apps. One, because they just don't work for me. I need to meet somebody organically. Like it takes away that organic vibe. But I did try them once. That's the problem. I won't lie about my age. I'm 51.
You look amazing.
And that was the issue when I tried the apps is, you know, my last boyfriend, he was 11 years younger than me and very good looking, very hot. And, you know, we met through friends. And that's the thing. If somebody met me out at a restaurant, you know, they probably wouldn't think I'm 51, whether it's a 45-year-old guy or a 55-year-old guy. On the apps, those men are not skewing to the age range of 51. And so that's why I won't do them. And yeah, it is hard. It is hard.
It's an irrelevant criteria, but because it's there, they look at it.
Yeah.
You have to put it.
And they put in what they're looking for. So some of them are not even, you know, if a guy's 50, he's not probably setting his age ranges to maybe 55. But if I met him at, out in the wild, probably wouldn't think twice about,
It's true.
dating somebody his age.
Well, I think you're super hot, and
Thank you.
I hope
should I move? Are we gonna do more girl kissing?
No,
No, I'm saying that we're going to put you out there through our podcast,
I
and
love it.
21% of our audience are male.
Yeah,
So
and by the way, they're going to know a
slide
lot about
into-
women.
Yeah, slide into our DMs if you want to meet Danielle.
On the gram.
or on the gram.
Yeah, on the gram. I like that. No, but I actually really want you to do a dating lesson and with tequila, because I personally want to learn more about tequila. Tequila is complicated as like wine. Can it be?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of great terms within tequila.
Because I always get judged that I actually will only drink the best tequila, because I don't like, why would I eat shit food? Like
Yeah. Why are you getting judged for that?
because people don't understand, like, why would you pay that much per glass versus
I don't
like
drink
wine?
boxed wine.
Right. I guess
look,
wine's cheaper.
I
You can
should
get good
say
wine.
there's some decent boxed wines out there, but no, I mean, the good wines are, it's.
But I think that people understand good wine, but good tequila, I think people don't understand. Is that true?
I mean, Casa Azul is at every bat mitzvah. I think people get it.
Clase Azul? What kind of bat mitzvahs are you going to?
Yeah, I got some fancy.
You hang out with some rich bitches. Because I go to events and it's like Casamigos. I'm like, no thanks. Won't drink that shit.
See, I like Casamigos too.
Are you sure you're not confusing it with Casamigos?
No, I'm definitely
then
not.
we need to
It's
switch
the pretty
parties.
blue and white bottle.
And we should switch parties. It's not fair. You don't even appreciate it.
Do you find that your demographic has changed and/or less people drinking wine because of the health kick and everyone going to vodka and
That's
tequila?
young, annoying people.
No, I mean, yes and no. I mean, there are people drinking less. People are drinking healthier, or they're moving to CBD or the mushroom. But there are still a ton of people drinking wine, and they
I
want
think
good
wine's
wine.
healthier than CBD.
Yeah, and champagne as well.
Yeah, that's a big thing now.
yeah.
Apparently, it's easier to digest and it's very low in
I
calories.
get headaches.
But
I
you're
don't like
always going to
champagne.
find people that like what they like and want what they want. I work for a premium wine and spirits company, and the good thing is even if people are drinking less, then they want something better. So if they're just going to have one drink, they want it to be a nice glass of Dom Perignon or Veuve Clicquot versus Prosecco.
Oh, that is true. That is true. But I do think the younger generation, they're just taking a lot of gummies and mushrooms, and then they're not getting laid because they're just like they're like meeting for breakfast. So weird. Can you imagine like a first date, like a
No,
breakfast?
I hate when a guy's like, let's have coffee. No. I want to drink.
Yeah, me too. Of
It
course.
takes the edge off.
Yeah, I agree. Coffee just make me hi. It'll be
Especially
crazy.
later in the day, I'm not having coffee and I'm not doing decaf.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%.
It's me for a glass of wine.
This new generation is just fucking weird.
Yeah.
They are.
Kids
They're
today.
No, they're sober. All these parents need to read this book. We are getting it right. I tell my kids to shut the fuck up, like this book says to do.
Right.
My parents used to give me like a little like taste of something when they were drinking. I'm like, start kids at a young age. That's what I always say. Build brand loyalty at a young age.
Build brand loyalty. Okay, so
I definitely don't believe in that, but I do believe let your kids aerate to see what they create.
ooh,
That's direct
read
from
the
the
book.
book. Yeah.
I did too. And
For more where that comes from,
we got it over
get
there.
your own copy. We'll put it in the show notes.
Thank you.
This was such a treat. Thank you so much, Danielle, for coming on our podcast and being so
Open.
candid, open, honest.
You aerated, right? Is that when it opens?
Yeah,
The
You're
wine
like
opens?
a fine wine.
Yeah, you are a woman who is aging like a fine wine.
Oh, thank
Yes.
you both. I mean, I could just sit here all day. Thank you guys for having me. This has been so fun.
Oh, I loved it.
And with that,
Mic
mic
drop.
drop.